Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you all for joining in for today's CPD webinar with uLawPractice. The topic for today's session is Law Office Client Management, and it's entitled for 1 hour of CPD credits, professionalism credits. I think I've shared some information on the chat window. If anyone wants further information, please do use chat window, and Steph or myself or my other colleagues here would be happy to help. If anything is going unanswered, please don't panic. We would be reaching out to you post the webinar if you leave us with email IDs, and kindly use the chat window that says to everyone instead of individually reaching. That would help us all to answer the questions pretty quickly. All right, so I think it's almost 2 p.m. Let's get started. Beginning of the year, still until the end of Jan, we are still trying to figure out certain things with Law Society guidelines, how to keep up with it. And we were just wondering, it would be really good to get started off with, the basics at the beginning of the year. And that's the reason we've got Law Office Client Management, and very interesting topic. This is something that would help you to keep your client's database compliant with Law Society guidelines. So we are going to be looking at how simply you could, get the things going in terms of getting your contacts up to date with your clients and their database into the program, or into whichever method of maintaining the database that you're using. Could be a simple spreadsheet, or could be as good as a practice management software. But we are going to be seeing, irrespective of the methodology you're using, how well can you maintain these documents, records, trail for your audit purposes, or for even your own office management, better office management, or for your Law Society purposes. So like every other webinar, we do have a specific set of agenda for this one as well. And it focuses mainly on client intake, the compliance around client intake. How do you manage them, and what are the components that involve or include in this process? Like, let's say, handling retainer letters or handling conflict check forms. If you're not engaging with a prospective client, how do you record it, and what are the kind of requirements Law Society imposes or Law Society guidelines recommends you to take care when you intake a client, right from client ID verification to the closing letter. We are going to be seeing today what are the type of documents that you are required to create during this process. And not just for the sake of the client or Law Society, but even for your better practice management and client management purposes. We're also going to be seeing how could you, keep a tab or make an analysis on your client's database, whether, how many clients do you have from a specific area of practice, how well do you collect their fees, how much do you have as an outstanding, are there any ARs, etc. So we are going to be focusing mainly on how well you can fulfill these obligations as a professional, and also see the process and the reward that you get out of this process. And also at the same time, have a smooth practice management. So this is what we're going to cover in today's topic. So it's a good 1 hour, webinar. I recommend all of you to get something hot to sip on. So making sure that you're going to be hearing me out for the next 60 minutes. And the session is being recorded. It is going to be available as early as Monday for all of you on our YouTube channel. And Stephanie has been posting links for attendance and also the topic and other details. At any time, any questions, you're welcome to use the chat window. We'll try and answer as much as possible during the webinar, but we will probably pause towards the end of the webinar to take all technical questions if you have any. Awesome. So let's get started off with the basic process of client intake. In today's scenario, considering post-COVID era, where are we? What are we using? Like, what are we recommended to use? And what are certain things that you need to keep in mind to fulfill this process? Whether you're using a simple paper pen method or you're using a web-based link for your client intake process, or whether you're using a practice management client portal, whatever is the method of payment, please make sure that these are certain points that you keep in mind to ensure that you're recording the details with your clients right from the initial consultation call you have with them to the time you go through the process of conflict check, determining whether you're going to be moving forward with them, whether they're going to be retaining you, what kind of client IDs they're providing you, how do you record them? Do you get them in electronic form, or do you just make a copy when they come into your office? How do you save these in the cloud or in a cloud storage system or in a file in paper? Your physical file copy is being maintained, whatever is the methodology that you're going to be following. So determining these at the beginning stages of your practice is very important. And while you're doing that process, you are going to be arriving at whether you're going to be making certain templates, or you're going to be using something that's available online, or whether you're going to be keeping things simple, just use whatever is available at that point. Maybe a simple Word document that you're going to be typing in the details and sending to your client, or asking them to just fill in the form when they walk into your office. So arriving at these details, determining them, and also processing them, right? Like, for example, let's say there's a client who calls you at the office and asks you for a prospective, let's say they're a prospective client and they're asking you for certain details regards a case, and seeing that whether their requirements are going to be fulfilled or not. So at that point in time, when you are collecting details from them, irrespective of whether they're going to be your client or not, at this stage, they are a prospective client. They could be your client or they could not be your client, but you still go through the process of recording them in your database, getting the details. And at the time when they are not going to be probably proceeding ahead with retaining you or engaging you, there's always the pros and cons to every single client who reaches out to you as a prospective client, right? At that point in time, you can always take the necessary further steps where you could either, they could go with you, you retain them, you collect all the documents that we just discussed about, having a nice client intake form, or, getting them filled online, and determining their fee structure and collecting other documents. So if this doesn't happen, let's say for an instance, they don't come back to you, they don't, for various reasons, they don't engage with you, what is the step that you need to take? Do you just leave them in your database open like that, just have a name under the clients list, or do you go further down, creating them as a ghost client and providing something like a non-engagement letter, making sure that they are not, sometimes the ghost clients don't return back. That's what is termed as ghost clients. When clients don't return back, or when prospective clients don't return back, you term them as ghost clients and put them under ghost clients group. And in that case, you are going to be making sure also that you are providing them with a non-engagement letter, so that you are not going to be part of that process anymore. You're ending the conversation or the consultation with them with a non-engagement letter. Now, while you move forward, there are certain types of documents you collect or you create in this process. And this is supposed to be saved or stored somewhere safely so that you could proceed into the next step of, making more templates for your retainer letters or for your disbursements, for your legal fees, etc. So what kind of templates are required for your practice? It could vary from area of practice, it could vary from the size of the firm, it could vary with the degree of professionalism, or how much you are inclined towards keep going green, making everything online or web-based, and storing everything on a cloud, not having them on a desktop, because with COVID, anything can change anytime, right? Especially, I think that it is very important that you are able to be mobile, you're able to keep your things on a cloud-based system or a cloud-based a program, and be able to access anything at any time, especially keeping in mind that these kind of records or documents must be accessible by you at any point in time, as basic as a client intake form to any sort of communications and consultation details that you've had with a client is important to be recorded and kept in the database. So that's about client intake. Let's go into a little bit detail about the agreement, the retainer agreement. What goes in the next step after, let's say, the client intake was successfully done, and the client has submitted all the documents in terms of client ID verification. You've got the driver's license, you've got the passport copy, whatever it is, and you were able to also collect all the other details in terms of source of contact. How did this client try to reach out to you, whether it was through a client referral or through advertising, however. So you're able to collect all those basic documents and details that you need. You complete the intake successfully, and you proceed with retainer, where you want to start the service. You're opening a file, you're starting to provide them with the services. While you start to provide them with the services at the beginning stages, you create something called retainer agreement to make sure the client is paying you things in, making the payment in advance, so that you can get started with their work. While you're doing that, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind while you're doing the retainer agreement. And number one is making sure the nature and scope is clearly explained in the retainer agreement, followed by the responsibilities for the client. So many times we don't make this very clear, and it's somewhere in the air, and the clients could get confused with the assumptions that they make. So it is very important that you are able to put down the client's responsibilities on the retainer agreement, ensuring that they're aware of their duties and obligations as well in this process of client intake and service communication, at the same time through the until the matter or the file is being closed. This could include like smallest things like how often they would be needed to replenish a retainer, if this is an ongoing file, when there are disbursements incurred, are they going to be reimbursed, or are we going to use the existing retainer amount in the trust? So many times people are not very clear in terms of their reimbursements for the disbursements, and this could affect your a clear picture in terms of getting retainer. So it is very important for you to make sure the nature, scope of matter, and client responsibilities, the method of communication, the course of representation, whether you would like to communicate through emails or through phone calls, or you want to use a different channel, whatever it is, you will have to make sure that you put it down in the retainer agreement and you both agree upon the same arrangements. And at the same time, what happens, the pros and cons of canceling the retainer agreement or terminating the services from both the ends, what are the cons to it? And the retainer agreement can be as elaborate as possible. It's very exhaustive, but at the same time, these are certain points that are minimum need to be there on your retainer agreement so that your client could be very clear, and at the same time, the law office is also not going to be left behind at the time of need, right? So you're able to take up the retainer agreement and show it to your client saying, this is what we had discussed earlier. So if you have any queries, you can refer to the retainer agreement clause number so and so. So, it's very simple when you put it down, you record it. Many times we are, I can't say lazy, but we are just so fast into things that we want to keep things short and sweet. But at the same time, there are certain things that cannot be kept short, especially retainer agreement. You want to make sure that, I'm not even saying keep it too elaborate, but at least consider these points here as basic. They are supposed to be part of your retainer agreement. At least, today, everything, if you're very conscious, want to keep things going green, and you don't want to print too many pages, okay, then keep it web-based. Go you start using a portal, or go use something online, send them a PDF copy so that, they could include it with the DocuSign. They can use things online, but at least try and keep it as much as, exhaustive as possible, so you can include all the details in one agreement and make sure you're all on the same page with that. Now, let's say the client intake was done successfully. The client has provided all the details. You have provided the client with initial consultation. The retainer agreement was provided. It was signed. It was sent back to you. Now it is the time where you start off with a conflict search and conflict search was done initially, but there are other things that includes as part of the conflict check. Step 2, which is, let's say you are completing the client ID verification and ensuring that it goes into the respective folder, and you have collected the retainer agreement, it goes into the respective folder, and you have all the client's information that is captured on the client intake, and you have recorded that on your database as well. Now, if this is all done, now you come into the stage where you have opened a file, you have added all the information regards the client, what is the matter details, and, what are the file details, etc. Now, while that is being done, you at the same time have to enter more details in terms of the processes that you're using, the tools to create them, especially, let's say, the conflict resolution document that you are seeing here on point number 6. This is nothing but the Law Society wants to know what is the process that you're using to create all these documents. What are the tools that you're using? Are you collecting it from the Google, like something that's readily available? The Law Society documents are readily available on the Google. Are you downloading them from there? Or are you using a practice management? Or are you using your own templates? So we want to record. So this is what is called conflict resolution document. What is the method that you use to resolve the conflict check, making sure that there are no conflicts? How did you arrive at this at the given point in time? Now that all of this forms part of what is curious, what auditors are curious to know, as in, like, how did you get to giving me this conflict check? I mean, like, do you have a system to run a conflict check, or do you use something online? Do you have a database tool? What are the methods that you follow to complete or to fulfill these simple, at the same time, very important obligations that are required as a professional for you to fulfill? Now, besides that, we also spoke about non-engagement letter. When does that come into picture? Whether you're required to give a non-engagement letter at the time when somebody reaches out to you and says that they're not going to be engaging you, or at the time when, they don't even get back to you. I would say at both the times, because it is what it is. If you're not giving them a closing letter, you have to give them a non-engagement letter. There should be some way that you fulfill the obligation to even end a conversation with your client. So there could be, let's say, on a positive aspect, that everything happened well, the client intake went well, the retainer agreement went on well, you collected all the documents, the work was started, the work began, the work was completed well, the money was collected, invoice was raised, money was transferred from trust to general, everything done, all the statements, all the ledgers, all copy of bills and summary, settlement of accounts, everything sent to the client at the respective time intervals, and you're done. So that leads to a closure letter that you're seeing here. But many times we also miss to do that. We just go with the flow, we send the bill, we're done, we move on to the next matter. That is, I would say, that is sort of sin. Don't try and skip the last step, because this will enable you to, in the future, at least let's say, 6 months down the lane, you're trying to figure out if you're able to fetch all the documents are in the cloud, all the matters have been closed. At that time, you would be surprised to see at least 40 different matters open, even though they're all closed. And now you are going to take a whole lot of time to go back and close each and every matter, and you're not even sent the closure letter on time. But the idea behind sending them a closure letter is to let them know that you are done with the job and there's nothing more between you and me, and we are done. We're good. Okay, so once that is done, you can very religiously go and close the file. I mean, if you're using a program, let's say like uLaw, that enables, or any other program that enables you to mark it down as closed or archived for any in any method possible, I would say that is the best, because end of the day, you could just review all your closed files and send out a closure letter at whatever time it is. And the option B that we were talking about is, let's say if things don't go smooth, someone reaches out to you and it didn't happen, they did not proceed with retaining you for some reasons. Just provide them with a non-engagement letter, whether they come back to you and say that, or whether they don't come back to you, they treat it as a ghost client. Whatever could be the reason, please provide with a non-engagement letter. That is also considered as a proper closure, right? Because they didn't engage you, so you're giving them a non-engagement letter and saying that you and I stand good here. We spoke, yes, but we are not proceeding with any sort of engagement here. So these are certain things that auditors clearly look for. They're like, it is not always the numbers, it is not always, yes, of course, the numbers are important. No, don't get me wrong. Numbers are important, but these are basics of being compliant with Law Society. If you get the 101 right for your contacts, then there's nothing beyond that for your client management purpose of it. So that was what compliance documents means for Law Society needs. And moving a little bit into the details of how do you maintain these documents, and how regularly you need to share them with your clients. So in the previous slide, we were talking about actually what are the steps that is involved in client intake, what auditors or Law Society is looking for. And in one of those, we spoke about properly closing the file, and we also spoke about what are the kind of documents you would be giving them. Like, if it's an ongoing file, you would be updating them in a regular intervals with a fee book, with bill of costs, summary, statement of activity, settlement statements. It's only like that. If there could be many cases that goes on for couple of quarters, sometimes even years together, criminal cases, etc. So it is important that, at least every quarter you send clients saying, hey, hi, I know, what, this is the balance I have in your trust account. This is the summary. This is what was billed earlier to you. Now, we are in this stage. So giving them a final statement and a settlement of accounts is very important. Now, what does Law Society tell you in terms of these ongoing files? So at least every quarter, if not every month. I know that it's really hard to go back every month telling them when you have several ongoing files, but at least every quarter, review your client matter, whichever is open at least. This is why you need to go back and close the files, because you don't know otherwise which is open, which is closed. So make it a habit. If you're all using, again, a practice management software, I'm sure there will be an option under matter to mark it as whether open or closed. If you're already doing it, well and good. If you're not, started today. So started today as in try to go back and investigate all your matters, mark it down as closed for the ones. And the ones that are open, at least every quarter, review them, send them all the statements that we discussed, the invoices, receipts, probably the statement of activity and bill of cost, what is available in their trust, what was moved into your general. All such details can be, provided to the client, and the quarterly update on client fee book, and also the aging report. These are two things that would help you as well as your client to know the status of their fees, whether it's pending, whether there's anything that they need, whether there's anything pending in your trust, or whether there's anything that is being paid, anything that needs to be recovered as part of the aging report. So all these documents needs to be sent to them on a quarterly basis, so that way, these are all, okay, one of the viewers has asked for all this is under documents or letters. So most of them, if you're a uLaw user, I'll definitely walk you through this. It's available under statements and documents, both the places, and you will be able to find all of these either under statements for matters, or under document generation under a specific matter. So these are specific to each client, so it's not like you can go into and send it on a bulk action to all the clients. So they're client specific. So clear and crisp invoices, quarterly update about the statement of activity, what happened in the accounts, and making sure their bill of cost and their client fee book, aging report, any AR pending balances, settlement statements, whether when you're closing the matter, especially, we spoke about this in the previous slide also, sending them a settlement statement and all the activities, their charges for legal fee, disbursements, discounts, and other details, such as especially a final closure letter towards end. So for other things that Law Society says that you need to send them on an annual basis are the trust and general accounts. They're not something your trust and general ledger or a fee book, anything that is related to your trust and general account in banks, etc. You just need to send them once a year. It's not like you need to send them on a quarterly basis. These are only for open files, ongoing files, when there could be anything that can go on for like years together. Only then you are required to follow these. But otherwise, if there's something that, you have a very short file, for only weeks together, this is definitely not for that purpose. So it's clearly only for ongoing files, at least for more than a quarter. All right. Now, moving further down about group management of contacts. Now, we saw about how you can add a client, intake a client, maybe opening a file, and also, generating various documents in the process of servicing them. Now, how do you group certain kind of contacts? Now, where could these potential clients or contacts be grouped under? So number one, you can group them as an area of practice. So you might be, let's say you're someone who does real estate, you also do family, you also do civil, you also do criminal. You need to make sure that you can manage your clients based on area of practice. So group them under several area of practices so you at least know by end of the day how many of them are there under, the respective area of practices. And you also manage them by type. Like, these are your applicants, these are your, your clients are your, also the plaintiff, defendant, or any other type of, the clients that you're referring to here. So making sure that you're able to group them under respective. So they could be your client, but they could also be a plaintiff. Or are they the applicant? Is your client applicant or defendant? So making sure that you are able to, label them is very important when it comes to group management of contacts, so that especially when you're adding them as an additional party, you would be able to, manage the clients better. I have a question here asking, how do you remove clients? I'm guessing it's specific to uLaw. So if you're a uLaw user, you can delete a client if you have not only opened a file or a matter, and you need to be on an admin mode. If you leave us your email ID, we could send you some details and we will be able to help you with that. Thank you, Steph. I think you're able to manage that question. Awesome. So proceeding further with the different types of group management here, like I said, the contacts need not only be your clients, the contacts can be your clients, they can be, your also plaintiff, defendant, other than that, what kind of group management of contacts comes into place? You have vendors, you have co-workers, you have representatives or opposing counsel. If you are into real estate area of practice, you have joint retainers. Create a separate group for joint retainers. Most of the times I've come across people asking, hey, what, I use the program, I'm able to, I have 2 clients jointly retaining me, but I'm only able to, open a file, just one file, but the names are separate. So this is where the joint retainer picture comes into place. And it's just a simple, another group that you're creating and adding the contact under the group. One goes as a client, and another one goes as a joint retainer, and then you merge them as an additional party. So this is technically why we asked you to group the contacts. When you group the contacts, everything is not just grouped as a client, but they're grouped under the respective labels or heads or groups, whatever you can say. And you're able to manage them better, whether they're vendor, co-worker, other representative, even ghost clients. So even for ghost clients, how many of them has reached out to you. When they come back to you in future, you're able to then identify saying, oh, I already have you on my database, let me pull it up. Or, you're able to manage better source of referral through this. Even for better marketing purposes, for sure that how a client has reached out to you, the source of contact, whether you could group it under the various source of contacts. Let's say you can have a group called via advertisements, via referrals, via referrals is just via existing clients, or via social media. So this will help you to make a better marketing strategy. And the group management is not only for the law society needs or something. This is something that would help you for better management of your practice and business. Now, proceeding further, before I go further, let me remind you all that today's topic is about law office client management. You're all entitled for 1 hour CPD credits, 1 hour professionalism CPD credits. Steph has posted link for attendance. Please go into the chat window and get the attendance link. And if you have any questions, I'll be checking the chat window every few minutes. And I request you all to use the chat window for further queries. And anything that could be elaborate, I request you all to please put it along with your email ID, and we will be happy to reach out to you post-webinar. All right, so how do you reach your client? How often do you reach out to your client? What are the documents? We just read about all this in the previous. So just quickly recapping for the ones who joined a little late, all that we discussed in the last few minutes or the last 30, 35 minutes is that we've seen client intake, we've seen the documents that you need to be collecting at this point, and the methodology and the points that you need to include in here, and how do you fulfill this process, and how often do you need to reach out to your client? If it's an ongoing file, how do you, what kind of documents do you send them to make them feel better in terms of details? And so far we've seen also the group management of contacts. Now, moving on, we are going to be seeing how the conflict check for contacts looks like. So it is the sample here you're seeing is something that is there from uLaw program, and this is something that is probably an example that's also available online, but you will be able to, as a step one towards being compliant for Law Society, conflict screening is a must, making sure all the contacts in your database, matters, dockets, documents, everything has been thoroughly checked with whatever is the method of conflict screening that you're using, and making sure this, the step two here is to ensure that you're recording the details such as who's handled the call, whether it's you or your assistant, or who's, recorded all these details, and who the client name or the person's details, and all of these needs to be recorded clearly, documented clearly, and the steps taken, whether the conflict check is done, what kind of client ID verification has been provided here, and whether the details of the file was discussed. All of these should typically go into this form that you see here. The conflict screening needs you to see all the details from the top to the bottom that we just discussed, and this will help you to take necessary steps at the time when you're being audited. That you can go back and refer to the file and say that these are the, let's say they just say take out the 5 files, and they want to review whether you had end-to-end for this file, and it definitely starts off with this first contact conflict screening. So when you do it properly, so that way there is no way you're going to be losing any information or data from whichever method that you're using. And further about source of contact that we spoke in the earlier, let's say in the earlier slides, where we spoke about client intake and how do you do the client intake, and while you're doing the client intake, you're recording the client ID verification, you're doing the source of contact check, whether they came through an existing referral or however it was. And you're analyzed everything, you're able to clearly jot down saying that, these are what we've collected so far, the work was began, the work was completed. Now, this is what, when it comes to the analytical part of it, you can go and see whether there's any work in progress, whether there is anything that is unbilled for the client, or if you're using a database or a program like uLaw, you will be able to arrive at these numbers that you're seeing as part of analytics very easily. You'll be able to know what was the percentage in each area of practice, in family law, in real estate, in, let's say, in any other area of practice that you're practicing in. You're able to see how many files were done, what was the fee book showing you, like, this is what you've collected under each area of practice. So it is very important to categorize what is the area of practice you're doing so that you know the fee book by category is done, and you're able to do the client expense versus legal fee ratio. So you know that for what are the disbursements that went on in the file, and how much was the legal fee that was collected, and what was reimbursed to you, etc. And sometimes even doing a pro bono file, and you might not know how much worth of dollars a pro bono file was taken up. And that time, when you're having an analytics like this running behind, you will be able to know all these details in a jiffy. And comparing these clients' revenue or expenses gives you better idea of margin. You know where you're standing, you know the financial health of your firm, and at the same time, it will be able to give you better idea on whether you need to expand your firm, you need to spend more on advertisements or marketing, and you're also able to clearly jot down whether it's a profit or a loss this year and all such details. So analytics on your clients can definitely give you more insights that you never knew about your business. So it is very important that you record all the information from day one, so that end of the quarter, end of the half yearly or the annual, you are able to arrive at all these numbers, these analysis, and it helps you visualize the data better. And you know that, at the time you're able to also react to the situation and take better steps. Now, benefits of using legal accounting on a practice management system. Now, because we were talking about various methodologies and tools that you might be using, what could probably be a benefit behind using a practice management like uLaw or any other practice management? So since we're representing uLaw today, let's talk about that. The total cost of ownership, making sure it reduces your overhead, because you are not sitting and making your own templates. You're not investing time to, add in the information at one place, then keep a track at the other place. Making sure that the total cost of ownership is probably going to be one of your major concerns, and making sure that efficiency in practice is very important. You're going to be able to maximize the efficiency with automated features of what is available for every practice management system that you're using, saving you a lot of time, helping you inputting the data, helping you keeping a track of the client analysis, all the documents templatized, readily available for you with one-click button, and at the same time making you compliant or keeping you compliant with Law Society, and the most of all is helping you work from anywhere, practice from anywhere. When you're using a cloud-based technology like uLaw, you can just literally practice from anywhere, access all your files. Everything is on cloud. You just need one device, any device, in fact, not one device, any device that you just need a user ID password, and you're able to log in from anywhere in this world. And let's just quickly, I'll walk you through. We left out with probably around 15 minutes. I want to quickly use this time to walk you all through how it works in uLaw. So, this will give a better idea as to, making the documents or reporting the process, or making sure that you've had all the contacts done from end to end. So if you're not a uLaw user and you're attending this program, I request you to sign up for a free 30-day trial, because it could give you more idea and helps you to be compliant. And you can visit our website, uLaw.io, and you'll be able to register for the free trial. So quickly jumping into our Playground account to show you all how it works. So I'll use a little old school method to go ahead. We do have several ways to intake a client. I'll just show you what are the 3 ways that we have to intake client. Number 1, old school method. I still love this, but I still like the newest one, which is the client portal too. But a lot of them prefer using this method because they can just key in themselves. And the other method is to just simply send your client a client intake form, download this from the program, send it to the client, let them fill it, send it back to you on email. Once they send it back, you can just import the contact by uploading the client intake form. Now, the third method, which was introduced during COVID period, is the client portal. I'm not sure how many uLaw users here are using client portal. Client portal is really good, saves you a lot of time. You just have to make sure that you are using settings to update the contacts and give the, give go ahead to use uLaw portal and give a secret key. Once you're done, you're going to save. So you've initiated the uLaw portal to uLaw client portal. Then you can just simply go into client portal, add your client's email ID and then the client portal secret key, and send your client and yourself an email. If you want, just generate the link and send it to your client. Now, if you want more details about this client portal, I think there's a different webinar that uLaw will do for client intake process where we talk in detail about client portal. That's not a CPD, but since this is the CPD, I'm going to keep it to the very basic level, which is add new client. Now, let's say we're creating a new client, call it, let's say, Mickey Mouse, and you're adding, just imagine you're in a rush, you're just adding the client. You could always save and go into the matter, open the matter, and start adding the dockets invoice. That is also a way, and you can come back in there and do the rest of the things. But we always recommend, before you go ahead and do all of those, we always recommend to enter the details, spend about a couple minutes adding in all the information you know about the client, the source of contact, the address, the street name, the phone number, everything is added in here for each of the fields, mandatory fields that you see here. And once you're done with that, you click on save. And when you're done saving it, you're able to do the conflict check, which is one of the most important steps that we discussed a few minutes ago. And when this is done, you will be able to identify whether there's a conflict or not. And you all know the step A, if there is no conflict, you proceed with client intake process. If there is step B, there is conflict, then you go ahead and you know that there is going to be some things that you need to do. So, which is non-engagement letter or moving them into ghost client, etc. So this is the part of the conflict check. You see there is no other conflict here, so you can just simply go ahead and create the matter. When you create the matter, you will be able to proceed with adding in the client's information. So the basic part of the client's information here is adding the matter title. So we want to know that what is the title that you're giving to this file. It could be a simple traffic ticket or, a real estate file or whatever it is, making sure you're adding the information about the file. Let's say this is a speeding ticket, or this is probably a divorce file, or whatever is the area of practice. You need to make sure to give them. And when you give them your, if there's a court file number, you give that. If you want to describe about the matter, you can give that. So this is a part of the client intake as well, because you're opening a file, you're ensuring all your rate per hour, your hourly rates, your assistant's hourly rate, the default tax rate. If you're not in the taxes bracket yet, you can make sure to give it a 0. Sometimes up to $32,000, you're not charged, you don't have to charge taxes. You're not going to be in that screening process, so you can make it 0. And when you come here, this forms part of the basics. So when you're done opening a file, the next step is that we already discussed, is the Law Society compliance documents for matter management. We have a separate, CPD that talks about matter management, but this is also part. There are some of the documents that's part of your client ID verification, your retainer letter, the conflict screening, client intake form. All of these are still part of your client management, and the statements, if it's an ongoing file, you can download them all from here, the bill of cost, the settlement statement, the non-engagement letter in case you're not engaging with them. All of these can be downloaded and sent to the client. And lastly, if you're doing a closing letter, to do a proper closure, you just send out a closing letter by simply clicking on download and sending a closure letter to the client. So it starts off, like I said, with client intake, and it ends with the closure letter. And in uLaw, everything is just readily available under the Law Society compliance documents. In fact, my favorite document when it comes to maintaining a file is the file opening checklist. So this way, there is no way you're going to be making an error. You know that what are the files that you have probably maintained, what are the documents that you've maintained for this file, was there a joint retainer, have you emailed the client the retainer letter, has it been signed, do they have joint retainer, has the client ID been obtained, whether it's a driver's license or a passport. You can go ahead, and these are all fillable PDFs. You can take action wherever required, and there you go. You have everything on your at your end, so there's no way you're going to be missing even a single thing, right? So try and utilize these compliance tabs. Under contacts, again, I think we only did conflict check as part of the initial compliance check, but there's also documents. There's also documents compliance tab right here that shows source of contact, aging report, client fee book. Client fee book is very important. Right now, if you download a client fee book, it will show 0. So let me just quickly add a docket to this matter and show you. Once you start invoicing, you'll probably have, this is a flat rate, and you're going to charge your client $300 plus taxes. You can add in description. When you create an invoice, before you create an invoice, you can also send them a retainer letter. You can download a retainer letter from here. Let's say out of $300 plus taxes, you're charging $200 as a retainer. You can download the retainer letter. You can use the template that's available in here, or you can modify the template that you want. And when that is there, you'll be able to collect this $200, put it into the trust account because it's a retainer. Once you put it into the trust account, you can just simply, add in all the details. Let's say Mickey Mouse paid you this. You give them a receipt. This is also an important part of compliance documents, making sure that you give the client the retainer receipt when you receive the retainer from them. So all of these are part of, getting one step closer to being compliant. Now, that you have received the $200, you have entered the $300 plus taxes, you can, choose to invoice it. Before you invoice, you realize that, you had a disbursement that you want to charge your client. So you can simply add a new disbursement, however you're paying for it or you're not paying for it. Let's say you're only charging the client, so you're only charging the top portion. There's a different webinar on disbursement demystified, guys. So don't think that I'm rushing into disbursement. It is just that I want to show you how the invoice looks. So there will be a disbursements demystified CPD somewhere in the first quarter, and I will walk you all through that leisurely. So I have recorded a retainer here. I've recorded a disbursement here. The idea behind recording the disbursement is to show you how you're going to get reimbursed for it. So you have a retainer of only $200, but you have $300 already in your fees, and you have $20 plus taxes on top of it. So most of the times people think that the reimbursement for this comes in separately. Oh, I should not be using this. Should I get a replenishment of retainer into your trust? Not necessary. Once you're done with the work, you're going to raise an invoice, and anything balance or anything that the client owes you, they can always give it into your general account. It is not necessary that you have to bring it into your trust account, but at least by invoicing, you're enabling yourself into making the transfer from trust to the general valid, and at the same time, you can give your client the details on the invoice saying that, hey, okay, so this is the legal fee that I've charged you. There's no taxes, $300 straight, and the photocopies, again, that you've spent or you've claimed from the client for, and the retainer that they've given you, and what is the balance due or the amount due from the client. Now, if you go into uLaw, you can simply click on question mark, and the first thing you would do is transfer the money that is there in your trust account into your general account, and you can come back, do that in uLaw. When you do that, you can also, let's say the invoice has been submitted and the client owes you so much, so you can go in here and submit that amount as well. So now let's look at the fee book. What I wanted to show here is you can look at fee book from contacts for that specific client under the document generation under compliance. Client fee book is over here. Or you could also go into the respective accounts and also check for the fee book. So right now you know that for this client, you have totally invoiced 322.60, and that you have 200 sitting in your trust, and you've not yet transferred that money, and the balance in trust is so and so. There's pending trust transfer. So it shows up clearly in red. That, okay, so please note that the pending trust transfer is in red. If you have not raised an invoice, there won't be pending trust transfer. There would neither be a balance owed. So these type of documents are very, very important. Now, I'll show you quickly that there is also another document that would help you for being contact. So just 2 more documents and I will wind up here. The other document that I was mentioning that would be needed, let's say that now you have completed this file by transferring the money from your trust account to the general account. You come back into uLaw, you do the same thing. You record the description number, you give everything, you're done, you download the Form 9A, another important compliance document for your law society. You're done with this. All this we've discussed in everything practice management, which we will be discussing again this year when you're doing everything practice management. But what I wanted to show you is, let's say you're done with this file, and when you're done with this file, just simply click on Mark As and close it. It looks much more better. Right now, I cannot close it, or I will not close it because I still have pending from the client. Let's say that is also paid through email transfer. The reference numbers, everything is being recorded here, and all the details. You give the receipt to the client, and you apply the funds. Everything is done end-to-end for this matter. Once it's done, just simply go back into uLaw and you click on Mark As and close it. That's how you close a file in uLaw. And if you so want to send further documents to the client, someone had asked me, where do I find these documents? I was saying that it will be under statements, the statement of activity, the legal aid statement, if this is for legal aid purposes. And, there are so many things here, and all the statements that you can give to your client. I have one of the questions here I thought is more related to this topic. If we have our own retainer, can we upload it to uLaw? Also, I'm not too sure what this is. If this is something like a float money that you're talking about, some law society provinces allow up to $300 to be as a float money. Then we can create yourself as a client and you can add it as a float money into uLaw as other trust deposit. Maybe after the webinar, I'll give you a call or I'll send you details over email and we can chat on that, elaborate. But that you can do that if you're from the province that allows you to keep a float money into the trust account. Awesome. I don't think I have any other questions here, but that is unanswered. If there's anything that is unanswered, please remind me here, Steph. This is just to remind you all, this webinar that we had today is available for 1 hour of CPD credits. It is only professionalism CPD credits, and the topic for today is law office client management. So we were just winding up seeing a few documents, and a couple of them that I was showing was, the statement of activities, the bill of cost, or settlement statement. You can send them a settlement statement, and you can tell them that this is what you want to. This is what has happened in your file. I've received so and so amount. This was docketed, and the disbursement was so much and so much, and it was transferred from trust to general. All the documents with the summary is available over here. And lastly, to wrap up this file nicely, just go into compliance and download a closing letter, which I already showed you all, I think, but to just bring it in a sequence, showing it to you again, letter of matter or file closing, and you can add in this. These are all fillable PDFs. You can add in all the details here and then sign it and send it to your client so that you are really done with this matter and the client for now, and you can click on closed. These are certain points that I think we already saw today. I know it's a little bit of everything practice management also in it, but more focusing on what you do at the time of client intake, what do you do after that, during that process of intaking the client, maintaining their file, servicing them, and once you're done with them, how do you do the closure or proper closure, and the documents that you need to provide to the client, etc. That's what we saw today. And thank you all for joining in. I think I'm almost at the top of the hour. 1 minute remaining. I want to see if there are any more chats. My colleague Steph would be sharing more links, more useful links for you all to learn about uLaw, to see if there are more information that you all need to know. And if you all have any questions, I'm taking another couple minutes more. This is all under documents, letters. I think we saw that. Viewer number 37. If you want any details, I think you joined a little late. If you want any details, you can please email us on support@uLawPractice.com. We'll be happy to share details with you. And most of you have only asked, saying if these are professionalism CPD hours. Just to reiterate that uLaw gives only professionalism CPD. We do not give substantiative CPD hours. So just in case, for future references, please know that we only give CPD hours which are for professionalism CPD credits. Yes, if you have your own retainer agreements, can you convert it into uLaw? Yes, absolutely. There's a place or there's a method that you do it. Let me take that offline with you, Rosa. I can definitely give you on details on how can you templatize your own documents and bring them into uLaw. Okay. There's a separate non-CPD webinar for that. Which we have sometime this year, again in the quarter beginning or probably just after the quarter. So you can check out for the uLaw webinar. You can go on uLaw webinar portal. All of you, please use the links. Just to keep the recording short, I will stop the recording.